Well, a lot can change in a couple of days, can it? Matthew Tkachuk is officially on the trading block, and the Preds may or may not have interest in bringing him in. We'll talk about some rumors linking the Predators to Matthew Tkachuk, whether the price tag is worth it, both short-term and long-term, and a little commentary on David Poile's offseason so far. That's coming up today on the Locked On Predators podcast.
Your Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Predators your first listen of the day. I'm Nick Morgan. I'm a writer and editor at ontheforecheck.com, and I have a partner in crime.
You do. I am Ian Kimmel. I'm a writer at ontheforecheck.com.
Well, 2 days ago, we put together a trade list show where we came up with offers for some of the big trade targets around the NHL. There's one guy on there we did last because they were like, well, right now, we don't really know if he's going to get traded. He's like the least likely, I think, at this point to get traded. That person was Matthew Tkachuk, who now, if you believe reports, is probably going to be traded within the next week or so.
What have we started?
Yeah. What did we unleash into the universe? And if you're a Calgary Flames fan listening to this, I'm so sorry.
Sorry, Jess Belmosto.
Yeah, I'm sorry for the chaos we caused.
Yeah.
First off, Anne, what's the deal with Calgary? That all of these players now all of a sudden, I'm trying to remember. I don't remember any team like in recent memory losing their two best players, not two of their best players, their two best players, all-stars, like of this caliber in the same offseason in such a short time.
Yeah, this is crazy to me, especially because when you look at how Calgary played last year, I mean, they're in the back of our minds. We were like, Calgary could make it to the Stanley Cup Finals. I mean, this was a really great team. And like you said, this isn't just two of their, hey, it's, a couple of forwards from Calgary. You're talking like league leading players leaving Calgary. Now, here's the thing. Calgary is not totally caught with their pants down when it comes to on-ice things because they still have Elias Lindholm. They still have Mangiapane. So they still have some things going on there. But you have to, look, it's not, it really, truly, it wasn't a total two-man show.
It's fine, but they're not. And, they got Jacob Markstrom in goal. But it's, there's a big drop-off from Elias Lindholm, who had a pretty good year, to, realizing the fact that he has nobody on his wings to help him get to that good season yet.
Yeah, they're not any better. Yeah, they're not going to get better from it for sure. But for me, the thing is, what is happening that there is some sort of exodus of this kind for this caliber of player? Like what is going on? Because I don't really feel like we heard that it was toxic, that there was a lot of frustration, that there was, you know what I'm saying? There may not be, but don't you think it makes one pause and go, wow, what's going on in Calgary, that they both are like, no, thank you.
Yeah. Well, for Johnny Gaudreau's case, he put out the Players Tribune where he's like, look, my wife's pregnant. We're both American. It's a pain in the ass still to this day to immigrate back and forth from the USA to Canada. We want to be, stateside. We want to be closer to family.
Yes.
I think his wife was in healthcare some way in Columbus.
She's an ICU nurse. Yeah.
An ICU nurse in Columbus. Underratedly has a lot of world-renowned hospitals.
Yes.
And so, you get that. Now, if Matthew Tkachuk's the same reason, like, look, obviously he grew up stateside. His dad's Keith Tkachuk. If
Yeah.
I'm sure his family's still here, and I'm sure he also, wants to go back and forth and see family and friends and all that good stuff. So maybe it's the same reason. Maybe Matthew Tkachuk, on the other hand, doesn't want to play for a team that all of a sudden doesn't have Johnny Gaudreau and not a lot in the pipeline to kind of supplant him with. Maybe
Yeah.
that's it. Or maybe there is something, and maybe there is something going on.
It's hard not to leap to that conclusion because it's so shocking to see two players like this go right now. You know what I mean? Like, it's very hard not to take a moment and go, okay, everybody, let's take an inventory and look around at each other and be like, did somebody piss them off? Like, let's just ask each other. And like you said, it could be maybe that's not it at all, but you just don't know.
Yeah. So let's talk about Matthew Tkachuk possibly coming to Nashville. This whole gravy train started with an Athletic article. It was from Jeremy Rutherford and Haley Salvain, two pretty good writers. They said that, Nashville is apparently on Tkachuk's list of teams he would not only agree to a trade to, but also places he would want to sign long term. Eric Francis with Sportsnet came out a while ago and said that list is not accurate. He didn't say what part of it's inaccurate. He didn't say if there is a list. He didn't say if there's teams that are not on that list. So
Right.
who knows? But the damage is done. Everybody is already linking Nashville to Matthew.
Oh, the horse is out of the gate.
Yeah.
Like it's on.
Yeah, for sure. And it's interesting, and because of course the fit is there. Obviously the Predators need a dynamic winger to play opposite Philip Forsberg, kind of supplant their top six. This would certainly do that.
Oh yeah.
But there are some question marks.
Yeah, there are definitely some question marks about it, and a lot of debate on, Predators hockey Twitter has kind of circled around like, what are you willing to give up? And there are some people who say everybody but Forsberg and Yossi on the table, 100%. And I'm curious.
I would throw Saros in there as well.
Yeah, Saros too. Yeah. Do you agree with that? Should everybody be on the table but those three?
And Duchesne.
Players and prospects.
And Duchesne, yeah. I would say there's a core four you don't touch, because if you give them up, then what's the point of bringing in Matthew Tkachuk? But
Thank you.
But I would say everybody else on the team, whether it's draft capital, my dog agrees with me, whether it's draft capital, whether it's high-end prospects, whether it's, players who are in the lineup right now, nothing is off the table.
Really?
And, nothing is off the table. And, I feel like there's a counter argument coming, so I kind of want to get into that with you. So let's do this. Let's take a brief advertising break, and let's get to let's argue this a little bit. Let's
sounds amazing.
This. So today's sponsor is our friends at Built Bar, and they got a new flavor out called Coconut Brownie Chunk Puff. From the people who invented healthy and tasty comes the latest gift to your taste buds. You've probably tried the amazing Coconut Brownie Chunk of Built Bar. Guess what? It's now in Puffs form. Puffs are a protein-infused marshmallow covered in 100% real chocolate, and they now come in coconut brownie chunk form. But it's not like a weird dessert or a candy bar or something that is going to spike your blood sugar for hours on land. No, Built Bars are low calorie, low sugar, high in protein, but still 100% delicious. All Built Bars are made with collagen protein, which your body absorbs more efficiently and provides tons of health benefits. So eat something that tastes good and is good for you. They come in plenty of different flavors. If you're not a big coconut fan, that's fine, because we have churro puffs, banana cream pie puffs, mud pie puffs. We now have new flavors like cookie dough and what was the one we tried that we loved, Ann? S'mores.
S'mores, come on.
I mean, if this is making your mouth water, then go to built.com right now and check out to see what flavors they have available. Coconut brownie chunk puffs are only here for a limited time, so you're going to want to get them before time runs out. Go to built.com right now and use promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off your order. Again, promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. All right, Ann, let's have this out. So I clearly said the 4 players I would deem untouchable, which are Juuse Saros, Roman Josi, Philip Forsberg, and Matt Duchene.
Agree. I agree on that.
Yeah, I said everybody else and everything else should be on the table. You're shaking your head. Why?
I think you have to be careful in situations like this because, yes, getting Matthew Tkachuk would be huge for the Nashville Predators, but you also have to be careful that you're not giving away something that makes the Nashville Predators that means that when you bring in Tkachuk, the Predators are going to be better. You don't want to swap him out with enough pieces that losing enough pieces that you end up just kind of net zero on this.
Fair.
And there's a couple players that I'm like, like that would be a no for me. That'd be a no for me, dog.
Like who?
Mattias Ekholm, hard pass. Like, look, you just got your defensive house in some semblance of order. Now, said with love, Dante Fabro, okay.
Yeah.
Dante Fabro, I feel like, okay, but I don't think you touch Ekholm or Josi. I just don't think you do because they just got their defensive stuff in order. So I wouldn't touch Ekholm. The other one that people are floating out, the name that I have seen, a name that I have heard that I feel very uncomfortable with is Tanner Jeannot. I don't know. You really feel like Tanner Jeannot? You're like, okay. Really? You'd sleep okay at night trading Tanner Jeannot for Matthew Tkachuk.
Would you rather have Tanner Jeannot or Matthew Tkachuk? Would you rather have a guy who right now may be one of the 10 best players in the entire league? Or would you have a guy who has been in the league one season and it was a really good season, but do you envision Tanner Jeannot developing into what Matthew Tkachuk is? And
Here's the thing.
That's the thing.
I want both. And I feel like you can put together a trade package where you don't have to give up somebody like Tanner Jeannot to get Matthew Tkachuk. Like, I'm like, don't just throw everything but the kitchen sink at it. Like, keep both.
But what if Calgary comes back and says, we want Tanner Jeannot? That's the piece. That's the young player piece we want. Like, are you saying no, then deal's off? In which case you pick Tanner Jeannot over Matthew Tkachuk?
First of all, I would say, look at this lovely Philip Tomasino we have here.
Yeah.
I would want the Predators to think long and hard because I feel like the conversation revolves around Matthew Tkachuk and I'm like, you know what? If you play your cards right, it could be Matthew Tkachuk and Tanner Jeannot is one of those ones that I would really not want to include in a package to get him here. Ellie Tolvanen, I would like to see Tolvanen stay and rebound, but like, hey, you know what? I'll say nice things about you no matter where you play.
That's
go
in
peace.
Big if also with Tolvanen maybe rebounding.
It's gonna happen. I feel it.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know. What about like now see people like Ryan Johansson?
Yeah.
You're good with Ryan Johansson in a trade package for Tkachuk.
Well, here's the thing, Ann. You're going to need a significant player coming off the books in some way to get Matthew Tkachuk, because if you don't, you're not going to be able to afford him. This isn't a thing where you can like float Dante Fabro's contract and a couple of things the other way and then, instantly sign him to a $10 million deal. You're probably going to need to give up some decent capital to get him. And that's going to probably be either A, Ryan Johansson, who has $8 million locked in into kind of a supporting role, let's be honest.
Right.
B, Matthias Ekholm, who's making, about 6.5, and, we just said we would prefer
I
not
would not.
to trade him because we need to pay attention to our defense a little bit. Or C, Mikael Granlund, who I think is, a underrated part of what held that first line and what made that first line so good last year. So when you're looking at those options, who else would you pick but Ryan Johansson? It clears up the most cap space. And, at the same time, it also helps Calgary a little bit because now you have a little bit of offensive firepower back. Now, they lost 2 wingers and they have Elias Lindholm. So maybe it's a situation where they're going to want like a young scoring winger, at which point, maybe that takes the Preds out of consideration a little bit. But, you're going to have to do something significant to get Matthew Tkachuk.
Yes, you are. Are you willing? Would you be willing to part with Ascarov?
Yeah.
Would you really?
But here's the thing, Ann, and I've seen like a lot of people when they're talking about, because you said like some people are floating like UC Saros' name and saying, put Ascarov in right now. There's
no way.
If you have a young goalie who's one of the best in the league, and that is what UC Saros is, one of the best in the league. He proved it the past 2 seasons.
Yes.
Like, why deal in hypotheticals, if you don't have to? Like, Saros is locked into a very team-friendly contract, like $5 million AAV for the next 3 years. Like, why would you like gamble on the unknown when you have a pure starter? We've said this many times because a lot of people are saying, Ascarov is, he's the sure thing. He's going to come over here and be like thing. We don't know that. He could play in Milwaukee for the next 2 years and suck.
Yeah, like, he's not going to suck.
Yeah, like how many times have we seen like first round goalies be like, this is like the best goalie in the draft, like play like 5 games in the NHL and be an AHL guy. We don't know that. Like, we don't know what's going to happen with Ascarov. I mean, this can be a situation like the Predators drafting Chet Picard with a first round pick, and then what happens the next year? Pekka Rinne becomes the number 1 starter, and a lot of people are like, yeah, he's going to be a pretty good placeholder until Chet Picard's ready. Well,
God bless Chet Picard.
We're still waiting for Chet Picard to be ready, and Pekka Rinne is one of the best player in team history. So, like, there's
I don't know
with goalies. Like, yeah, it would suck to lose Ascarov, but you have a goalie right now. You have a young goalie who can win you games.
Okay, so let's say, let's play in some hypotheticals. Let me put you on the hot seat. Let's say the Predators would trade Johansson, Fabro, Ascarov, maybe Luke Evangelista, or like a pick. Do you feel like if they trade those pieces and bring in Matthew Tkachuk, what does the team look like?
I don't think they have.
Where's their ceiling?
Yeah, I don't think they have to trade that much right now players, Like, I think Calgary is a team that's like, we're kind of on the fence. They may want more futures, or they may want a couple of first round picks or something like that.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, and this is, I guess, my sort of commentary on the entire situation, because a lot of Preds fans, talk about the future, and they want like, we should be stockpiling like picks and prospects. You hope those picks and prospects develop into something like Matthew Tkachuk, which is a young player, one of the best in the league that you can build your team around. You hope they develop into something like that. A lot of times, in fact, most times, they don't.
Right.
So why gamble on, again, this is like the same thing with Saros and Ascarov. Why gamble on the possibility when you can just go get the sure thing right now? And here's the thing with Matthew Tkachuk. He's 23, 24 years old.
25, yeah. He's young.
He's 24. I think when I looked yesterday, he's 24. He's right now one of the 10 maybe 15 best players in the entire NHL. I mean, there's people talking about him as an MVP candidate last year.
Yes, I would agree.
Yeah.
I would
If
agree.
you
Yeah.
get him locked in long term, is that not, what the Preds fans should be wanting? Is
Yeah.
a young player one of the best in the league that you can build a team around that's going to be here even when Yossi and Forsberg are past their prime? Somebody that even when, your original core ages out, you say, okay, at least we still have Matthew Tkachuk. Here's somebody we can still build a franchise around.
Mm-hmm.
You're not having to scramble for a rebuild. And that's what Matthew Tkachuk is. Matthew Tkachuk, if you get him and you lock him up long term, you instantly change what the future of this franchise looks like. And, because we were talking about this something on the Forecheck Slack. Is Matthew Tkachuk going to be the piece that helps the Predators beat Colorado next year or helps them, get to the Stanley Cup? Are they instantly contenders? Maybe, maybe not. But they have somebody, a legitimate under 25 player to build around. And I think that's the missing thing that the Predators have moving forward. They have Roman Yossi, one of the best defenders in the league, in his prime right now, but he's on the other side of 30. Same with Matt Duchene, other side of 30. You start looking 5 years down the road, you need somebody like Matthew Tkachuk in their prime that, hey, you know what? We are aging out. We need to get younger. We need to bring in some new prospects. You can do that and still be competitive because you have a top 10 player in the league playing on your top line.
Yeah. I mean, I can understand that. And I will say this about the whole Matthew Tkachuk thing. There are some pieces, like I said, that I would not put on the table more than just kind of that core four. There are a couple pieces I would not put on the table. I will say this, we have talked a lot about David Poile, and we're going to talk a little bit more about David Poile in just a minute. But this is a great window for the Predators to do something a little big, a little bold, in the sense that, pricey, because
I said spicy.
And pricey.
I mean, they rhyme and they're both accurate, so
they're not wrong.
Yeah.
Because and this would be a big one. But when you look at the seasons that Forsberg, Duchene, Yossi, Saros had, when you look at how that core four performed last season, this would be the time. Like, this would be the time to do something bold, and that would be bold. Like, Matthew Tkachuk would be bold. Like, let's be real. I mean, like, bold. But we're going to talk about David Poile in just a second, because we have David Poile thoughts, as oft Predators people do. But first, want to let you know that there are NFL stars who are going to move the betting line the most this season. Starting this week, Locked On gives you the 50 most valuable players in the NFL from the odds makers at Bet Online. It is available on Locked On NFL, wherever you get your podcasts, and YouTube.
I want to circle back to something you said, Anne. David Poile needs to do something bold, and now is the time. If not now, then when?
Yes, I would agree with that, sort of.
Yeah, because here's the thing. Like, we did mention, the core is getting older, the window is shutting. The longer you put this off,
right,
the more, you're getting into a situation where you're going to cross the point of no return. That either it's like you have to really go all in, or you're going to wind up, needing to reinvent that core. And maybe that's when the rebuild talk comes into handy, like a legitimate rebuild talk. You look at the team this year, they had a Norris Trophy candidate, a Vezina Trophy candidate, and 2 40-goal scorers. When I looked this up the other day, I think that's only happened like 4 times, maybe 5 in the past, like since the first lockout in 2006, that a team has had 2 40-goal scorers, a Vezina nominee, and a Norris nominee. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen a lot. So there's your core, right there. You have players performing your best. So, if you're not going to make a big swing to help those 4 players be best and like translate that to Stanley Cup contendership,
Yes.
at what point do you? Like, and that's, I think,
What else do you need to make that move?
Yeah. And that's my thing with David Poile. Like, I think he's caught between eras a little bit.
Tell me more about that.
I think he does know that he needs to think about the future and get younger and bring in some up and coming pieces. But I also think he wants to win with Roman Josi, and he wants to win with Philip Forsberg. Obviously, those two are locked in, but more so Mattias Ekholm. He's somebody who really believes in Ryan Johansson and Mikael Granlund. He's shown it before. But, so he's like kind of this thing, and we've seen it in the past couple of years where the Predators were kind of on the bottom trying to scrape their way up to the postseason when he didn't trade, Mattias Ekholm or Ryan Ellis at the deadline, or, held on to, Craig Smith and Nick Bonino, where he's like, well, there may be some offers out there, but I just really believe in this team. I don't want to trade any of them. I think you see a little bit of that where he still sees something in this core and he's not ready to rebuild. So if you're going to do that, if that's your belief, then you've got to be aggressive at getting this team some help. And I think that's why the Tkachuk move is something that can really benefit the Predators. And I've said it, like, both short term, this makes them insanely better next year. Like, does it make them a cup contender? Maybe not. But it gets them in that stratosphere where there may be one or two pieces away from being a cup contender. Not like big pieces. There may be one piece away. Like, they may be like the guy like the Tampa Bay Lightning when they got Blake Coleman. Like, they won the cup. Like, that may be the Predators if you get Matthew Tkachuk. But David Poile's got to pull that trigger. And look, I know a lot of people have kind of criticized his offseason so far. David Poile is a guy who is impossible to read. The Predators don't leak a lot of stuff. Like, some of these trades the Predators have made in the past, like Shea Weber for PK Subban, came out of absolutely nowhere. Like,
there was nothing out there.
Yeah. David Poile doesn't leak anything. He's not somebody where you hear like chatter and it's like, oh, so-and-so is interested in possibly moving this person or the Preds have asked on this person. Like that's not something David Poile does. Like, he just kind of pops up and it's like, surprise, here's Matthew Tkachuk.
Out of a cake.
Yeah, out of Philip Forsberg's cake. I'm sure Matthew Tkachuk is eating like a strawberry pie somewhere at a diner. And David Poile's just going to explode out of the piece with like, here's a 7-year offer, best we can do.
Yeah.
Gosh. I'm sorry for putting that image back into your head.
Thank you.
And I think that's kind of the thing that's close to the chest. A lot of people are like, come on, Preds, do something. We don't really know what David Poile is doing. He's a PR guy. He is going to spin every situation like in the business thing. He even said he had the whole Forsberg thing. It's like he went and said like A, B, C, D, like all these plans and backup plans. And then he comes out and it's like, oh yeah, we never had any of those. Philip Forsberg was always our thing. That was just kind of talking for the cameras.
Right.
So who knows what David Poile is doing? Yeah. He may have been calling on Matthew Tkachuk since the season ended. He may have been in on Johnny Gaudreau. He may be working on another deal. Maybe somebody like JT Miller, who's only going to be here 1 year, but maybe fits into, sort of the let's see what happens this year strategy. We don't know. And that's the thing with David Poile, and something I have to kind of remind Preds fans, we're probably not going to know until it happens.
Right.
So I think in this situation, obviously, like, we need a second liner. Or, in this case, somebody who's going to be a top liner. We need somebody in the top 6. Like, that's obvious. I think it's obvious to David Poile. But I would, and I'm trying to think of the best way to say this. It might behoove us to have a little bit of patience, which is not something we're adept at having sometimes.
Yes, we're not known for that.
Yeah, in this social media world when it comes to sports. But I think in this case, we're not going to know anything until it happens. So
Right.
I think
Just breathe, everybody.
it behooves us to just take a seat, take a deep breath, and see how everything plays out.
Yes, I would agree. I think, and here's the thing, I'm curious what your take is on it. I'm very 50-50 on this. And like you said, there's very little from Poile or the organization to get a gauge or a read on. I'm like, I could see it happening. I could see it not happening. I could see the Predators going, yeah, we're not jumping on that train. So I don't know. What do you think? Like, give me a percentage. Give me a percentage that it happens.
On the Tkachuk happens?
Yeah. That the Predators are in on Tkachuk.
That they're in on Tkachuk?
Both. Do both. That they're in on it and that they land him.
That they're in on Tkachuk? 75 to 80%.
Okay. How close do you, like, what's your percentage that they're gonna maybe bring him to Smashville?
15 to 20.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think, yep, those should let those percentages set expectations, friends.
Yeah.
You will be less frustrated as the day goes on.
Yeah. And, let's also remember there's probably 31 NHL teams on Matthew Tkachuk also that are going to be interested in bringing him in, including somehow probably including the Vegas Golden Knights.
Yeah, I can't.
Yeah.
I don't. Who knows?
Who knows? Maybe they trade Jack Eichel for nothing next and then bring in Matthew Tkachuk to replace him.
Like I always say, I couldn't be an NHL general manager. And then I look at Vegas and I'm like, well,
yeah,
maybe.
Yeah. It's like the guy with the Amex. You just keep maxing it out.
Yes.
And then it's like, hey, you can't spend anymore. So you pay off
pay the minimum.
You pay the minimum to buy the new pair of Louis Vuitton shoes.
100%.
You just keep kicking it down the road.
Right.
Anyway, yeah. So Matthew Tkachuk, we'll see if it happens. Expectations low, but hey, that would certainly change the perception of the Preds moving forward, wouldn't it?
Huge. It would be. Yeah, that'd be huge.
So yeah, that's going to do it for us on the Locked On Predators podcast. And where can people find you when they're not listening?
You can find my work at ontheforecheck.com, and you can find me on Twitter at AnnK_Mama on Ice.
You can find me at ontheforecheck.com as well. Follow me on Twitter at _NSMorgan. While you're there, be sure to follow the show at LO_Predators. And if you're watching this on YouTube, be sure to like the video, subscribe, and leave a comment. Let us know what you think about the Tkachuk situation. That's going to do it for today's episode. Thanks for making Locked On Predators your first listen of the day every single day. We'll be back tomorrow with a new episode.